So I go down there and we land, and the band gets in a Chinook and they go into the first location. There we put on 4 shows in 4 locations across the Panama Canal. I have a letter for 200 Marines in the jungle, and I have a sergeant in a Jeep, and we take off into the jungle in the Jeep and we come under fire. And the bullets are whizzing through us. And yes, I had three or four of them go right past my face.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it took my driver's finger off, his index finger on the wheel. So I
Yeah.
grabbed it and put a tourniquet on it so he wouldn't bleed out.
Yeah.
And we
This
and
is
we
an
outran
amazing
them.
story. Wow.
So we outran them, and we got to the compound, and the Marines suddenly ran out there, and there was like
Yeah,
6 or 8 guys, just rogues. They were running out in the jungle shooting the shit.
Of course.
And so they take him. So I go to the hospital. I visit him later before we left Panama, and he gets honorably discharged because of the loss of a finger.
Yep.
So fast forward, you'll love this. Fast forward like 20 years maybe, and we're doing a show in Ohio, and my road manager comes to me before my show, and he says, "There's a guy out here who wants to meet you." And he said he said he was former military, and he said he was your driver in Panama. I said, "Is he missing a finger?" He said, "Yes."
Battle Line Podcast, we have absolutely an A-list guest for you this episode. So every now and again, I'm surprised I'm able to get the people that we have on.
Hey, it's because
Lee
of this
Greenwood,
pretty face, dude. It's because of this pretty face. That's why.
Yeah, Lee Greenwood is an icon. You guys all know God bless the USA,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more to his career that we get into. And the guy is actually, he's not a veteran, but somehow speaking for troops and performing for troops, he's seen some combat.
No, I did, and we'll get into the story. I mean, I'm not going to tell you about it here, but there was a story none of us, I don't think anybody out there
No.
has heard of before. So I can't wait for you guys to hear about it. But he comes across like a veteran too. He does.
Yeah.
He comes across like an old colonel, like an old crusty World War II Vietnam colonel, but amazing person. Love him, and he's got more energy than me and Ian combined. And what's
Yes.
he, 82, 83 years old? Freaking awesome.
Yeah, there's almost a
great.
similarity to when we had Ted Nugent on the show. How
Yeah.
it's just like, one thing after the next, he hits it all. But you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, check out Elinzer if you're looking for new fragrances, new cologne. They actually have a Black Friday sale up right now as we're recording this. And you got yours a little bit after I did, but you have a
Finally.
certain fragrance you're loving.
Guys, that stuff is awesome. I throw it in my suitcase. I took it on 2 trips already. Ocean Profonde. I don't know if that's a French way of saying profound, but that's my favorite. I do. I love it. My wife loves it, but there's a bunch of fragrances in there, and it's perfect for travel. I love it. And the packaging is awesome, but the fragrances, all of them are awesome. You're going to find one that you like, and then go ahead and pick up the full bottle if that's what you want to do, or you just want to keep like we do. But I love it. Ocean Profonde though is my favorite, but I love that smell, and my wife loves it. So hey,
That works. I mean, they're a great sponsor and they're a great company. So check them out. And that's Elinzer. The spelling, is a little bit hard. So Elansor, Elinzer.com, Elansor.com. Embrace every moment with distinction with Elinzer. You're going to love them.
Awesome.
Also, longtime sponsor of ours, longtime friends of ours, Bubs Naturals. I love everything that they put out there. I actually had a workout last night, and then I had some collagen protein, which is always great if you don't want to do a full meal, and also you're not regularly getting collagen into your diet. And I know I'm getting the best collagen with Bubs Naturals because it's grass-fed, it's single-sourced, and that's really what supplementation should be all about, stuff that you're really not getting in your diet that is going to enhance your health and enhance your nutrition. So I love them. I know you do as well.
Yes, the MCT oil is a great pre-workout, and I love it in the morning with my morning coffee. It gets me going. So, guys, both of those, the collagen, the MCT oil, you can't live without it if you're an active person. Even if you're not, get active. And if you are, once you start taking it, because it will help you with your joints. And it does. The MCT oil does help you get a little jibbed up, is what I say, before you go starting to work out or just in the morning. And it goes great in coffee. Excellent coffee.
Yeah, and I know a lot of you are behind the whole movement of Make America Healthy again.
Yeah.
And if you're about your health, you got to get hooked up with Bubs. So bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code BATTLELINE and you'll get 20% off your first order. That's bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code BATTLELINE for 20% off. With that, let's get right over to Lee Greenwood.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on, Battle Line Podcast, and we are extremely honored to be joined by someone I truly do consider a legend. Someone who's created a song that is 40 years old, and it's completely immortal. The song, if there's ever been like an alternate national anthem, you created it, and it's an honor to be joined by Lee Greenwood. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Okay, great to be with you.
Oh, hey,
Absolutely.
and sir, I guess I just start, and I know you've probably been asked this question 8 million times, but we got you on for this, and being a military vet, myself being an Army vet, being with the Rangers and so forth. Man, where'd this song come from? I don't know if I've ever heard you tell the story. Where did that first, how did you get in your head? And then then the next question, because that's how us Rangers ask. I lump these questions in, man. Did you think it was going to take off, become something as immortal as it is today? And I mean, it still is. It's still played everywhere today, and especially on military bases.
Well, let me give you the short answer first. I wrote it in one evening on my bus, traveling 300 days a year. And did I ever think it would be bigger than it was? No, because it was never selected. It wasn't selected by me. It was selected by the record company. Now I'll give you the long answer. I was raised on a sharecropper's farm in Sacramento, California. And as I started playing and singing at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, I was a drum major in my high school marching band. My mother was a piano player in the 40s. My dad joined the Navy right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
He survived it, 4 years in the Navy, 2 years in the Merchant Marine, the forgotten service. And my mother, despondent to raise 2 kids without a husband, divorced him. That happens in military families a lot.
Yeah.
But she couldn't handle the 2 kids, so she sent me and my sister to my grandmother and grandfather in Sacramento, and that's where I was raised. We had a piano in the house. I played it automatically. And at the age of 16, I started playing the saxophone. I loved the saxophone. It was more my instrument than the keyboard. I still play them both. So because I was the drum major of my marching band, we did a lot of marches in Sacramento. And I would march right alongside the military bands, which was amazing pageantry, the discipline, the uniforms. I loved everything about it. I would have been a great soldier, Chris. I promise. I would have followed discipline. I would have been a Marine.
Your dad. I mean, Pearl Harbor. That's the greatest generation. Of course, I'm sure you had some good upbringing with the discipline, or at least some strict upbringing. I'm sure you did.
Well, no, I did not, because I didn't know either one of my parents very well. My grandparents were farmers, and my farmer grandfather let me work on a tractor and do farm chores when I was very young. I did have a fence. My grandmother put a fence around me, and when I'd go play bars at night at 15 and 16 years old, she told the band leader, if he doesn't come home at 2:30 in the morning and not a drop of alcohol, he will never go again.
You were playing at bars when you were that? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
That is
well, so did
incredible.
my mother. My mother did it in World War II. She played piano in honky tonks, and when women weren't supposed to be in bars.
Yeah.
And she wore a man's suit just to kind of avoid the law, you know. But they were a wonderful, beautiful couple together. But divorce, forced me to be on my own.
Sure.
And I left home at 17. I went to Nevada. That's where the money was. I went to Reno first, and then settled in Las Vegas, opened the Stardust Hotel in 1981 with my own band, and worked there a year. Stardust was brand new at that time. Caesar's Palace opened in 1955. And so I worked all of those years there until I was 37 years old. Not to avoid the gaming business, I dealt cards in the casinos for 3.5 years. 3 years at the Tropicana and a year downtown at the Mint on the graveyard shift. all with and I did that so that I worked days and sing at night, or I sang at night and then worked and then dealt graveyard. So I worked round the clock for 4 years, and it was interesting because I wanted to find out how hard I could work, how much money can I make just on my own.
Sure.
But I couldn't go from the Frontier Hotel across the street to the Sands without leaving town. And so finally, I got my country music career. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and the balloon come up. And so I had 4 hit albums. I had It Turns Me Inside Out, Somebody's Gonna Love You, and You've Got a Good Love, and Greatest Hits before I put God Bless USA on a record.
I'm glad we're getting into the origin story because that is important to mention. And, you know, if Harold could put up the Somebody's Gonna Love You cover when we put this in post-production, truly, I hope you don't mind me saying it, you were a bit of a sex symbol, sir. You were looking very provocative on the cover, and people forget that your career was doing much different things before you were this patriotic icon.
Yeah, when I look back at a picture with me and the Gatlin brothers, we were all hot. We had long hair and we were hot.
It was the mullet. I mean, it was the mullet sexy crew. I remember that. Oh my
we
gosh.
were rocking. But USA came along at an interesting time because I didn't see an end to our hits. I mean, they were just kept coming. There was If There's Any Justice, and then there was I mean, we had 36 albums, and three. And I was on a label with Barbara Mandrell, and I wrote her a song called "We Were Meant for Each Other," and we did a duet album. You can bring that album up and show that. Barbara knew how to take pictures. That was the best album cover I had ever taken.
I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie, sir. When I was growing up,
was so
she
much.
was
Mandrell sisters.
The Mandrell sisters. That show. I'm glad my parents made me watch that. They didn't have to make me watch it when it was Sunday night, or was it Saturday? The
Mandrell sisters. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I knew them all. I worked a lot with Barbara, and then of course Earlene.
Wow.
But Louise was also an entertainer, and she did shows on her own, and she was also beautiful.
Just gorgeous.
But so I toured 300 days a year, every doghouse, outhouse, and roundhouse, and I just didn't see that there was ever going to be end to that kind of touring. And then USA came along, and it was almost like a rocket ship. You know, it took to a different level for about 3 years, Chris.
Yeah.
This wasn't forever. And then after Song of the Year in 1985, I moved record companies, and I moved over to Capitol Liberty. And I had a hit album there called Holding a Good Hand. I had the duet album called A Perfect 10, which every girl on the label, I sang with every duet with all 10 duets. And then I recorded American Patriot. And American Patriot was my expression to put God Bless USA on the shelf. Yeah. And I recorded every American song. That's the national anthem included. God Bless USA, God Bless America, America the Beautiful, This Land Is Your Land, Battle Hymn of the Republic, and several others. And I recorded that album the same year I married my wife, Kim, 32 years ago. This year, because it was only recorded on a CD, this year they released the vinyl copy. It's a red, white, and blue splash painted vinyl record on the inside and a digital picture of me on the outside, the 33 1/3 big album.
Which is awesome because vinyl has come back full force. People love vinyl now.
That's what my son says. He's 26. Yeah. I'm not sure, but
it has. So more and more people are collecting vinyl now than 20 years ago.
Well, they're going to have to make better vinyl than they did then, because that's why we got rid of it. It would deteriorate so quickly. Any case, so we had that, and now we're looking at the 40-year anniversary of God Bless USA, and we recorded, we put on a show in Huntsville, Alabama, to honor the 40 years of hits that I'd had, and all of the albums and all the radio hits. We had 11 #1 songs, 36 charted singles. And so I hired 40 singers out of Nashville. I asked them to come and sing. They sang for nothing. And everybody, there's Michael W. Smith, the Isaacs, who sang "Thank You for Changing My Life" was the flip side of my first single. The Gatlin Brothers, Felix Cavalier from the Young Rascals. Oh my gosh, the Oak Ridge Boys, when Joe was still alive. It was everybody came from Nashville, and that DVD is on my website. It's called the 40th Anniversary Hits, and we gave away 3 homes to veterans that night. So now we get to the subject about what I do and what is my passion. For the past 15 years, we built homes for wounded warriors, and there's a group I've worked with called Helping a Hero,
Sure.
a charity out of Houston. There are many others, and I work with
Sure.
Tunnels for Towers
Sure.
out of New York, which do a similar thing. Folds of Honor, which is a scholarship
Yeah.
program also for
I know
veterans'
that.
children. And so anyway, that's kind of what we do. So that in that film, we gave away 3 homes that night, and randomly, which they didn't know they were coming. So what a thrill that is for me to help take care of veterans who have served this country so wonderfully.
And I think the reason God Bless the USA resonated with so many people actually speaks to what you're speaking about, is that you were already an established artist. So for you putting out a song like this, it wasn't some type of gimmick. People knew who you were, and you put it out, I think, and wrote a song like that because it was truly how you felt. And I think when people hear it, whether they go to more recently a Trump rally or they go to an air show or they just hear it in the military, it speaks to them.
Let me tell you a couple things that are kind of synonymous. God Bless the USA was never intended to be a single. It was on the album called You've Got a Good Love Coming. It was our 5th album. And I recorded, and for the very first time, we put $25,000 in a video, and we filmed it at the London train station. You can bring it up; it's on YouTube. And Patrick Dovey from the cast of Dallas does a cameo at the very top of the film. We were friends so long, and so when I got the call from Irving Azoff, I was standing in the room in Los Angeles at MCA. At Universal, and he said, "We want it to be God Bless the USA as the single." You could have knocked me down. First of all, he just like killed me because I had 25 grand in the video. That song, You Got a Good Love Coming, would come out later. It would come out as the next single, and it would be a hit. And we did have the video on CMT. But when USA hit, I'm touring, and every song that I introduce that's been recorded and radio starts playing it, we always start to promote it. So it'll be in the middle of my show somewhere. And then we kind of juggle our set list to decide where it's going to go, what kind of impact it'll have on our show that night. I'm an entertainer. I like to do that. We put God Bless USA in the center of the show. Chris, I want to tell you, it was really obvious that the audience applause was so much greater at that than any other song I'd ever released. We did that twice more. I had to move it to the end of the show. It was the finale, and there will never be another one.
And that's how it is. It's been since, right? It's been the finale since that time, since you just figured out that
All
was...
right. So the similarity is Donald Trump playing God Bless USA for his campaign. Never asked me. I never said he could or could not. He just did it.
And you're okay with that. I'm okay with it.
Perfectly okay with it. I'm just saying, because our very first song was not intended to be a single, and someone else made the choice. I didn't ask Donald Trump to play God Bless USA. It was just his choice. So you see the similarity in what God's moving here. Exactly. And that's what I believe as a man of faith. I believe that God is moving this. He saved Donald Trump from assassination. He's put him in the position of the president of the United States again for the next 4 years. We're going to straighten this dang country out, man. We're going to stop the immigration. We're going to stop wars around the world. Everything's going to be kumbaya pretty quick here.
Well, me and Ian are in agreement. I say we both voted for Trump. And I don't know Ian, but I'm a supporter. And actually,
I did.
You can tell. And I tell people, you know what? He has outspoken this, but it's nothing that a bullet doesn't humble you a little bit when somebody shoots. And you can tell there's some humility there now. And that's what I like, because I really, I was, man, I like what he does, but just got to find some humility. And he's still outspoken. But dang, I'll tell you what, when a bullet goes whipping by your ear, and I tell you from experience, and it missed mine. It humbles the living heck out of you. And
I'll give you my story, Chris. President Bush 41 called me in my office in Nashville, and he said, and he's on a personal phone call with me, and he said, I want you to go to Panama, and I want you to put on 4 shows for my troops. We've already taken out the dependents, and he said, we're going to take Noriega out.
Oh, this was before Just Cause. You weren't there. What year was this?
Yep.
Just Cause was 1989. That's when the actual mission happened.
So it was 2 years before that?
Okay.
A year and a half before that.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that long.
Wow.
6 months. So I go down there and we land, and the band gets in a Chinook, and they go into the first location. There we put on 4 shows in 4 locations across the Panama Canal. I have a letter for 200 Marines in the jungle, and I have a sergeant in a Jeep. and we take off into the jungle in the Jeep and we come under fire. And the bullets are whizzing through us. And yes, I had three or four of them go right past my face.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it took my driver's finger off, his index finger on the wheel. So I
Yeah.
grabbed it and put a tourniquet on it so he wouldn't bleed out.
Yeah.
And
This
and
is
we
an
outran
amazing
them.
story. Wow.
So we outran them, and we got to the compound, and the Marines suddenly went out there, and there was like
Yeah,
6 or 8 guys, just rogues. They were running out in the jungle shooting the shit.
Of course.
And so they take him. So I go to the hospital. I visit him later before we left Panama, and he gets honorably discharged because of the loss of a finger.
Yep.
So fast forward, you'll love this. Fast forward like 20 years maybe, and we're doing a show in Ohio, and my road manager comes to me before my show, and he says, "There's a guy out here who wants to meet you." And he said he said he was former military, and he said he was your driver in Panama. I said, "Is he missing a finger?" He said, "Yes." And so he comes back, and certainly he got out of the military, he got married, he went to work for the CIA, and he's still working with the CIA and has a family. And if, talk about a close encounter like you had in Benghazi, a close encounter with life. And yet you can look back at and kind of muse at this point, but
We
it was
can.
pretty tense at the moment.
Well, it's a life-changing experience. We all go, God puts us through all these experiences to learn from or get something from. And obviously you did end to make an effect on someone because you found he finds you that many years later just to
Yep.
see. And hey, can I actually, I never knew that happened. I don't know if Ian did. Did
No,
you
I
know
had
that?
no idea.
Holy
It's an
crap.
amazing story.
That is
It was
an
not in the
amazing story.
news. We didn't put it in the news.
When
I
got-
believe it because it's you. I mean, like if Hillary Clinton told the story, I'd say this is far-fetched.
Yeah, whatever. When you got there, so you were going to do a show, correct?
Yeah.
So I guess my simple terms is did you do the show? Did you
Oh,
you
yeah.
go it? Did you how
Yeah.
was that? Were you just pumped up?
I was pumped. Yeah. I went and played basketball with the soldiers first, and I had 3 camera networks on me with duct tape, but it was so hot and I was sweating so hard the
Yep.
microphones were falling off. I said, "All you get is B-roll," and I played another hour of basketball with them.
Oh, that is so cool.
That's amazing. Hey, hope you're enjoying this interview with Lee Greenwood. I have to tell you, I learned a lot about Lee Greenwood. I knew that he had a long music career, of course, prior to God Bless the USA, but he really got into the specifics of a lot of it. He got into some amazing stories of playing for the troops and really seeing some action firsthand, which was incredible. Loved speaking with him. But before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout all 50 states, but you're going to get the best deal through us when you go to fsm.com and use the promo code BATTLELINE for 15% off your ammo. fsm.com, promo code BATTLELINE. Longtime supporter of us, longtime supporter of Tonto and Battleline Tactical.
Yep.
And we also have the greatest night vision sponsor out there. You are regularly using Photonus Defense. I know
Oh, yeah.
this is something that you are pretty active about.
I am extremely lucky because I do have my own set of Vipers and they
Yes.
are freaking incredible, guys. So if you're a hunter or you're just like to shoot and you like to shoot outside and you like to do the night training and you're starting to get into tactics and getting even to the more advanced tactics, if you want night vision, you want the best night vision out there, and I'm talking across the board, then you go for Photonus Defense and those Vipers. Man, they're freaking amazing. I wish I would have had some of those, when I was deploying all the time and working with the Rangers and the agency. Tremendous, tremendous. Best night vision on the market by far.
Absolutely. So now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper binoculars, which Tonto was just talking about, to become masters of darkness. The new Viper binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. So visit photonisdefense.com, Photonis defense.com for more information, or you can just look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. With that, let's get right back to our interview with Lee Greenwood.
I did want to ask you and I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to ask you about the first time you did the Proud to Be an American on the show and you got that response. What were you feeling, man? What was going through when you got that, middle of the show, first time you did it, and you're like, this is something special. Wow, with the applause. How did that make you feel? Because by that time you've been standing ovations. You've gotten the applause.
Well,
was it different?
We had 4 albums. I already been male vocalist 3 times.
Yeah.
And so it didn't matter what song I sang. USA was still not something of an umbrella. It would be many years before it would become an umbrella, and not a parachute. I mean, it didn't serve me that way. And I tried to use it very positively. We did 16 USO tours. I toured with Bob Hope. Unfortunately, it wasn't during the Vietnam years. It was at the end of his career. But 8 stops, 8 shows around the world in 8 days. And you know how big the world is when you do that. On C-130s and C-141s, traveling all the time. So a lot of military experience, but I never considered USA special yet. It got inducted to Ronald Reagan's campaign, and by his campaign manager, and those that asked me if they could use it in the film from Ronald Reagan. I neglected to let it be political for the Democrats and the Republicans. That was both in 1984. I didn't do either one of them a favor for their campaign. But when it came to the RNC, and I'd already agreed to sing it in the film, then I'm singing for the President of the United States now. And that's that makes it different. And so like in congressional appearance at the White House with Reagan and Bush, a command performance you have to attend. It's not, you're not playing politics there. So then it became special. And then, of course, the Gulf War. General Schwarzkopf uses it as a way to start the war, said a prayer, played my song, they went to war. And I sang with General Schwarzkopf when he came home for several of his events, his welcome home in Tampa, which was a Disney production, and that was amazing. Then you go fast forward to the attack on America. Yeah. And I can't believe it's been that long as I look back on 2001. Here we are in 2024. And the time that we went to New York and sang for the Firearms Memorial, the Policeman's Memorial at Carnegie Hall, the Firearms Memorial at Yankee Stadium, the 4th game of the World Series at Yankee Stadium, where I wore the red, white, and blue jacket. And that is the YouTube performance that everybody refers to. And at that time, Chris, it was a little bit like you can't wear colors in clothes. You can't wear the nation's colors in clothes. And I had the jacket made for me. It was a company called Wear Me, W-E-A-R. And I said, I'm wearing a damn jacket. I said, because the reason is we want the rest of the world to know when I sing tonight that America's off its knees. Yeah. And we're going to wave our colors.
And I'm glad you're getting emotional. It means the world to any veteran out there watching it, because the flag, and whenever we say the Pledge of Allegiance, whenever we sing the Star Spangled Banner, I'll get choked up. So
I stand for the flag and I kneel for God.
We always do. And that's what we want to. And I remember watching, because I'm a Yankees fan, and I remember big Yankees fan. And I remember that because I was at the time still serving.
That went 7 games that year.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And the Diamondbacks finally pulled it out in Arizona, but we won every game in New York. So that's like, I stood for something there.
Hey, you know what I wanted to
You
ask you
are.
about? You're speaking about how you've been with Trump for all of these rallies, singing it, the Madison Square Garden rally, which, as we were speaking about before we recorded, absolutely huge, packed out Madison Square Garden. I did see you got into an exchange on X or Twitter because there were reports of people like Megan Thee Stallion and Oprah Winfrey getting paid money to be a part of the Kamala campaign. I know Oprah Winfrey has said she wasn't paid. I don't know the real story, but someone tweeted, well, how much did they pay Lee Greenwood? And you said, I didn't receive a penny. I did this because my wife worked with Trump for many years and I'm about what he represents. So, yeah, but I'd love to hear about that because you didn't do this for money. It was 100% what you stand behind.
Yeah, it's 100% what I believed in. And when Trump asked me if I would sing live, they could have easily played my recording. Just know this about music, and you probably do, you're in broadcasting. Everything that's played on record, on broadcast, whether it's media, it's television, streaming, which is a new deal of the last 10 years or
Sure.
so, radio, there's a log. Every song that's played, that's broadcast out to the public, there's a log, and that log collects money. When I had my own theater in East Tennessee, I had paid $10,000 a year to BMI for all of the songs I sang in the theater. So God Bless USA is one of 100% songs that played all the time. And so I get an extra from the slush fund, but nothing personally. I do not get paid for my personal performance.
And that says a lot about your character. And I like that you're professional. You're just a professional person. You rise above and you don't get in the weeds with stupid comments and
No.
stupid things like that. My last thing, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad you told your
We
backstory
got plenty of time here.
growing up. Well,
Good.
I don't want I want to be respectful of his time, and I
We got
love his
time. We got
story.
time.
I don't, Mr. Greenwood, he'll say something, and I'll get a question out because I didn't know we were even going to get into this much stuff. Growing up, you sounded like you were kind of a hellion growing up.
Yeah, a little bit of a wild child.
So growing up, you get that wild child. Did that? Then the patriotism that you have now, was it that wild and seeing the freedom and being out there and living in a great country where you can kind of get into trouble every once in a while and still have a wonderful life? Did that help with writing that song? Did that help with the singing of it? Just being a normal kid growing up, living in Vegas, doing the crazy stuff to
There
where
wasn't
you are
much
now.
normal. There wasn't much normal about living in Vegas.
Well, that's
I mean,
yeah. I want stories from if you
but
can, anything from there.
I have to tell you, I worked all the time. I mean, I was a working machine, and the reason is because I had several bands, and sometimes I worked by myself. I played piano bar at the Tropicana in the atrium. When the people who finally talked me into going to Nashville, that's where I was discovered playing piano bar. But I worked all the time, and I love Vegas. The years prior, my mother married an Italian named Giantonoli at the age of when I was 13, and he was a builder. And he and his two brothers, Pasquale and Salvatore, all served in the American Air Force. And when they got out, they decided to build hotels and motels around Disneyland. So we moved from Sacramento to Disneyland. That's Anaheim, and I went to Anaheim High School. The things that were important to me was sports and music. That's it. That was my life. I wanted to be a baseball player, and I was all-star in high school in baseball. And I really wanted to go play for the Dodgers. But I'm 5'7", 140 pounds, dripping wet. And the coach said to me, said, son, I think you better go back and be a musician. And so I did. And when I left home, I never went back. I mean, I went to Vegas, I went to Reno, Tahoe, and Vegas. And I just never went to go back. That was my life then. And I was on my own. I was on my own security. And I sacrificed. And I maybe sacrificed too much, but I certainly pursued the passion. And when I tell people about that, and they say, my kid wants to be a musician. First of all, no. And the second of all, you better damn well be ready for the sacrifices because it's coming. You sacrifice your family, you sacrifice maybe your beliefs sometimes
Sure.
in order to get it done. And the competition is severe, You just have to come up to standards. Fortunately, I was gifted. And I had a lot of talent. But my mother used to tell me, there's nothing more important than perseverance. It's not necessarily the talents you have. It's not the beauty that you have. It's the persistence that you have. And you will outlast anybody because you're going to work harder than anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
And
the
you
American
have
way. Yeah, you have.
for 5 decades plus now at this point. I want to make sure that we get into the stuff that you're promoting because, for people who don't realize, you're not just a guy who's promoting nostalgia. You're currently working on a ton
Yeah.
of different things. So you just had the God Bless the USA rock version with Drew Jacobs, #1 on the Billboard charts for rock. You guys did a killer job at that. You have the God Bless the USA Bible, which also includes different things in patriotism, the Constitution. So yeah, I would love to get into what you're up to now, and also the tour with Kid Rock, which is not
Yeah.
only Kid Rock, Nickelback, Hank Williams Jr., Leonard Skinner,
That's
Aaron Lewis, Big and Rich, many others. I mean, this is like a massive, massive festival. So I'd love for you to promote everything that you're up to.
Well, thank you. And thanks for mentioning Kid Rock's tour. Yeah, Bobby's a good friend of mine and interesting guy. I've known him quite some time. He lives on a trailer up here in Tennessee. He has a big house, but he prefers the trailer. And he just, he tries to promote a lot of things, but everybody loves him. And that retake on Sweet Home Alabama was just unbelievable. I was like, that's so very creative. And we'll find each other on Music Row sometime, just hanging around, down here in Tennessee. But what I am promoting, of course, is the 40-year anniversary of my songs, which was a DVD, and it's on my website, leegreenwood.com. It's 40 artists singing the songs I made famous on radio, which is an amazing array of singers. I try to name them all. My friend, the Isaacs from the gospel world, and Michael W. Smith. They sang a song I wrote called "Thank You for Changing My Life." Felix Cavalier, the Rascals. He came in and sang one of our songs. He played organ, sang great. The Oak Ridge Boys, the Gatlin Brothers, Crystal Gale, Debbie Boone, from new and old. The performances just knocked me out. And I'm sitting in the front row with my family watching all these guys sing songs that I made famous on radio, not thinking anybody else could do that any better. But every performance was stunning. So that DVD is available on Blu-ray, Blu-ray and regular DVD, and it's on my website. So look for that 40-year anniversary. We also gave away 3 homes that night to soldiers. And then we have the God Bless USA Bible, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
I have a little copy of it here. It is the Holy Bible. Don't make any mistakes about this. The Word of God, Jesus Christ. And so in the back of it, the 4 documents that I think are important is the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and of course we included the Pledge of Allegiance, which is not a Founding Fathers document, but it is about supporting and honoring the flag.
Yeah.
I also put a handwritten version of my chorus of God Bless USA, which is why we call it the God Bless USA Bible. And it's available on GodBlessUSABible.com or LeeGreenwood.com. You can find either one of those.
Excellent. I have to say, by the way, you have so much energy. I can just tell from this interview. And you know what I wanted to ask you about? There's still guys out there who are touring. Some of them, allegedly singing to track, i.e., Frankie Valli. I mean, what do you think? You're still out there doing it live and sounding as good as ever. Do you think some of these guys your age should tap out? Because clearly it's not an age thing. It's the fact that you either still have it or you don't, and you still do.
Well, it could be an age thing. I mean, some singers have overdone it, like Steve Perry. Look at Whitney Houston. I mean, the thing that killed Whitney Houston was not necessarily the water in the bathtub. It was the fear that she was going to sing the next night for Clive Davis to open up a widely seen television event when she hadn't sang in 3 months. The end of her career was terrible. She just could hardly sing, bless her heart. One of the greatest voices ever God has given anyone. And the reason is she hadn't sang enough. So let's get to the point where I'm 82 years old. I just turned 82 in October. If I don't sing for 3 months, I'll never sing again. I will not go on stage and be 40% of what I used to be.
Sure.
That's why people say, my gosh, you're still singing. Yes, I am. And I've been gifted with my tonsils. I never had them taken out. And everybody my age, Chris, did.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we didn't have the money. So I still have my tonsils. That helps the vocal cords. I think it helps them stay strong.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I take care of my body. I don't do drugs. My wife and I have a little wine. That's all. It's kind of a joke. Like neither one of us started drinking till we met each other.
That's That
Yeah.
you can go so many different ways with that.
Yeah, I know. But we enjoy some wine, sit around, watch some TV now, and we have two wonderful sons. Dalton was valedictorian of his high school,
Wow.
and he went on to WNL, which is an Ivy League in Virginia, had a biochemistry undergrad, then
Wow.
went to Vanderbilt
Wow.
for 4.5 years, 5 years, and got a PhD in cancer research and immunology. He lives in Chicago and is a biotech analyst for William Blair, a financial institution.
Wow.
So he
Our
totally
younger
did not
son,
follow in your
Didn't
footsteps and
you?
said,
Yeah.
I
oh,
want to
come on,
sing.
man, give me a break. So then my younger son, Parker, he was a theater actor in high school, and he had a perfect science score, by the way. So he's not a dummy. And he was given the Chancellor Scholarship at TCU, Fort Worth, Texas, and went for
Yeah.
4 years there. He's finishing his master's at University of Miami in engineering and producing. So he's about to launch his career, and you can find his music on YouTube, PK Greenwood.
Okay.
Stands for Parker, PK Greenwood. And he's got some great songs, some interesting. He's a different singer than I am. He's not at all mellow. I mean, he'll get in your face,
Uh,
but
Ian hates
he
me. Ian hates me to say this, but Ian, we need to get him on. Then we need to get him on
oh,
the
you
show.
you need all means you need to talk to Parker. He is amazing. And I'll hook you up with him.
I'll be great. I'll be great. I cut you off a little bit. I'm sorry. I got a question for you here. Coming up for the troops and the troops that you still have. We still have people deploying all the time. And it's more. I guess I want a statement from you. You know, is there anything you can tell them? Because it does motivate us to hear, and it does motivate us to hear your music. And for us that are when we're downrange, and we know who you are when we hear the voice. But we have
Most
troops still going
Americans,
out.
most Americans don't know how dangerous it is around the world. Um, there are wars everywhere. There's
Yeah.
conflict everywhere. There's danger everywhere. And I pray for every soldier puts on a uniform. I'm proud of each one of them who dedicated their life in front of mine, just like you did, Chris. And I'm proud of everyone who goes and serves, even if it's for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they get out and go back home to civilian life, because they can tell people this is what it's like in Afghanistan. We toured all of the stands. We went to Afghanistan, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and saw war up close and desolate places. We were in war zones, as I said, in Panama and everywhere else in the world. I was in I think it was Bagram or Kandahar, maybe Kandahar, when we landed in the C-130, and we had like 30 seconds to get out of the plane and never turned off the props. And suddenly you're a
Yeah.
civilian. I'm like, give me a gun, please. I want to defend myself, but my message to the military, stand strong, be safe, stand strong, watch each other's back.
Oh, thank you. And
As you mentioned before, all the dates that you did with Trump, whether it was the RNC once again or MSG, a lot of people might be wondering what we know of Trump, whether it's even Chris or myself, is really what we see in the news, what we see at his press conferences. Your guy's gotten to spend some valuable time with him. What is the president like?
Charming, charming and disarming and gentle and fun-loving. He's a Gemini. He loves fun. And the times we've hung out at Mar-a-Lago and just had casual conversation, much like I did at the White House several times with George Bush 41, because we had many times with 41 like that. But he's a really big man too. And every time I've reached out on stage to shake his hand, and he'll reach around and give me a bear hug, it's like, oh. It's like he's a big fella, and but he there's no doubt when you talk to him for a minute or two, you realize his resolve to make America the greatest country on this earth again. This MAGA is not just a co-phrase. He really believes we can make this country as great as it was when we started it. And we never want to lose this republic, but we can lose it in one generation. So we have to really pay attention.
Oh, well said. Well said on that at all.
Are you still writing music? Because I was curious about that. I know you're still performing every month. You're performing shows, various shows, but do you still write?
Rarely. I was commissioned to write a song recently that'll end up on the after music of the Reagan film. And it was a song started by Ronald Reagan and Mike Kerb. Now, Mike Kerb was very wealthy, and he helped Reagan win the presidency. And they're riding around in a limo one day, and he said, "Hey, let's write a song." It's like neither one of them are musicians like that. And so the song was called, and the record producer Mark Joseph called me a year and a half ago and said, I have this song supposedly written by Mike Kerb and Ronald Reagan. I'm going to send it to you and let you see what you think. It was not really good, and it had no content. But what it did do, it inspired me to go ahead and write it. And I said, I'm going to write you a whole brand new song. Okay, it has nothing to do with what you sent me. I'm going to keep two words. The first was the title. And the title is "Can We Start the World Over Again?" And that was what they had came up with. And of course, any song you write, it has to be reflective of what the title is. But they made an attempt at that. It didn't quite get there. And then, so the only other lyric I used in the song was the beacon of freedom, because that's what Ronald Reagan was talking about, America being a bright light and a beacon of freedom. So you'll find that in the song. It will be in the Aftermarket album, which will include Guns N' Roses, Genesis,
Oh, wow.
Travis Tritt, Big and Rich. There's a variety of artists.
That's a
But
wide
mine
array
is-
of artists.
Yeah.
But mine is a totally new song, and using the composition, and I was paid a minor fee to do the production, and that's all it was. So when you see that, when it come out, you'll see that I wrote it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else, and
I do have
go
one
for
more.
it,
I'm
go for
sorry. I always do. This is how I do, Mr. Groon. Every time I'll say this is my last
Have we
question.
got time, Jeremy?
I have questions. Jeremy, do we got time for one more? Or are we
Let
done?
me ask him. Yes, go.
Okay, go for it.
Mine's easy. It's most special story when you're out on the USO tours. Do you have anything that just sticks out, or maybe even a close call when you're out doing your military tours and singing in Afghanistan or Iraq or Pakistan or Uzbekistan? Anyone?
Well, I told you about Panama.
You told Panama.
that-
That's a heck of a
that was-
story too.
That was the only time I got fired on, but the rest of the places are a little intense. When we performed at Bagram, it was three generals in the front row, and there was a small guy standing at the autograph table with a 50 caliber hanging around his neck. I'm like, who are you going to shoot? There's nobody here but us. And so I could see the special ops through the where my stage is, looking directly through the ceiling of the building, and they're on the building across from us.
I
could
know
see the special
exactly.
ops.
I know exactly where that's at.
Okay, great. So across the street, inside the chicken wire fence, are some other guys in a room. And so my liaison says, the guys over there want to see you. And I said, okay. And so we go in there, and three guys come out, and they look just like Afghans, but they're Americans, and they all got sidearms and the big old heavy beards. And they're like, hey, can we get a picture? Yeah. Okay. They're CIA, and they're in beating up some terrorists. They're just like pounding. It's like, come out. Oh, can we have a picture? Oh, sure. And then they go back in and kill this guy, It's like, so I love that.
It's just what it is. I know exactly. Again, I know exactly where you're at, and I may or may not. I wasn't one of those guys. Maybe I don't know.
So I'll continue the story, and then we'll finish.
Good.
So I'm up all night, and I go to every guard tower. There are 7 guard towers. Each one has a 50 cal with 3 soldiers. One's a veteran and 2 rookies. And I spend time in every one of the guard towers until dawn. Now I've been up all night. So we get in our C-130, and we're going to Qatar. You know where Qatar is.
Yep.
Okay. Mobility command there. And so I have an all female crew. They don't call it the cockpit. They call it the sandbox. And so,
He's
I
got
said,
jokes, man.
I said, would you phone ahead? And when we get to Qatar, I want to play outdoor basketball, and give me 8 guys, or 7 guys. We'll play 4 and 4. And so when we landed, it's 100 degrees outside, and we play basketball for an hour and a half. I am now sweating and exhausted, and I have a show that night. It's our last show on in the military USO show. The next morning, I'm flying out of Qatar Airlines and go back to New York. So I go in the Quonset hut, and we have electricity. You know what you get when you electricity? You get ice water.
Yeah.
You get air conditioning. And then I took a shower, and I laid down in ice cold air conditioning. And I took a nap for about 3 hours, and then I got up refreshed and went and did our show. So 2 F-16 pilots came to me before the show, and they had a folded American flag. And they said, we're going on a bombing run. We're going to kill some bad guys, and this flag's going with us. And when we come back, we're going to give it to you. So it took me an hour and a half show, did a 90-minute show. That gave them time to go do the bombing run and come back, and they handed me the flag. I have it.
Wow, that is cool, and that's a heck of a culture change going from Afghanistan to Qatar. That is completely. I know I've done that before too, but
Yeah.
that's an amazing story, and you are a true patriot, sir. And it is an honor for me, and I know it's an honor for Ian, but
Oh yeah.
to have you on because to the vets, you mean it does. There are special. I won't say celebrities, but but then there are ones that we hold near and dear because we know deep down you love us and we appreciate that. So
Well, I
thank
walk
you.
the walk, I talk the talk, and I know my role. You
Yeah.
know, like I said, I would have loved to have been a soldier. I would have joined the Marines. I was 3A in the draft, so I had an early marriage and 2 kids. And it wasn't my, by the time my number came up, the war was over. Vietnam was over.
Well,
And I met somebody the other day. I was at a casino in San Jacinto, California, which I met some Trump people, oddly enough. And their son was a Eagle Scout. And he did a video slide presentation with my song. And he showed pictures of all of the things that were wonderful. He is Vietnamese. His mother and her sister were the last two out of Saigon when Saigon fell. And they went from Saigon to Malaysia, Malaysia to the Philippines, and then worked their way 6 years it took them to get to the United States. And they live in California. They have a wonderful family now. And her husband was military, by the way, as well. And so, when you meet people like that, and what America spits out, and that is, you can come to this free country and but that's the real message there. Is somebody came from a war-torn place. They had no family generation background. It's all gone. They can't go back to Vietnam anymore and say, I used to live here. They're Americans now, and that's their story. And that's so many stories of real Americans, not just me, who was born in California on a farm, but a lot of people who are great come from small cities in America.
Well, it's been a total honor, and I'm going to let you go before Jeremy kills us.
Yeah, Jeremy, sorry
making
about that,
it
bud.
too long. But once again, everybody go to leegreenwood.com. That's where you could pick up God Bless the USA Bible, which we spoke about, where you could see all the tour dates, and then at the Lee Greenwood on X and Instagram. God bless you, and God bless the USA, and really appreciate you doing this with us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you both. And Chris, I'm in admiration and humbled to see you.
Oh, dude,
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, brother. Hope we get to play basketball one of these days together. If I ever see you, we're playing ball. Promise.
I can still shoot.
I can still shoot too, but I got a new hip and new knees, so I can't
Well,
jump anymore.
I got titanium knees and a
All
titanium
right.
cage on my back with 10 screws. I will still shoot.
Yes, you and I will guard each other then. We got it.
Okay.
Man.
All right.
Take care, sir.
Thank you again.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.